nature of this testing we looked at, the extent of the testing. We said it is upon the whole world, right? The extent. So it is upon the whole world, those who dwell upon the earth. So that is a clear indication that it is not a local incident. It's not a local incident. It's not a local persecution. It is a persecution for the whole world, right? So that is what we looked at. And now we wanted to focus here on the deliverance from this testing. Deliverance from this testing. The critical issue in rapture debate concerns the expression to keep from, right? Keep from. Proponents of post-tribulation rapture, right? So, see, the difference between when you say post-trib and pre-trib, I know that there is a mockery, right? Post-tribulationists always mock pre-tribulationists about rapture, right? For rapture. They do mock, I know, because I've seen not many. That's okay. But interestingly, post-tribulationalists, they also believe, they believe in rapture. Post-tribulationalists, they believe in rapture. Yeah, it's not only pre-tribulationism, right? Post-tribulationists also believe in rapture. And so I know that there is a lot of mockery about coming in the mid-air, right? Jesus coming in the mid-air. And no, that's not, there are a lot. But if you really look into a post-tribulationist position, then you will see what is the true difference. The real difference is, will Christ come in a mid-air before the tribulation or after the tribulation? That's what it is. So let's look at that now. First of all, the word to keep from, that is the biggest thing to look at here. Proponents of a post-tribulation rapture argue that the expression means either to be taken out of the midst or to be preserved in the midst of, right? So the post-tribulationists, they believe that to keep from, right? To keep from, this word simply means to, they explain this way. To be preserved in the midst of, like, remember I said, like Noah was protected while there was a flood, right? In the midst of flood. Daniel was protected. No, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was protected in that fiery furnace. Daniel was protected in that cave of lion, right? So that is what the to keep from actually means. Now, post-tribulation advocates offer the following support. Okay, what is their support? What are the things they say? They say this way. First, the word keep, right? Tereo, I know I don't have that Greek font in this laptop, so somehow it didn't come. To keep, right? Keep can mean to protect or to preserve. Not just to safeguard against. It can mean to preserve, protect, right? That is what their argument number one. So listen, post-tribulationist argument. All right, Douglas Moo, who champions post-tribulation theory, he says he can mean protect. Second argument, from ek, right? That's ek. That's the word you get the word from. In Greek, ek. It always carries the sense of out from within, right? Out from within. It is in the sphere, but out from, that is of emergence, right? Emerging out, right? Emergence. That's what these things that word ek can mean. Third, the exact phrase is found in 1 John 17:15, right? What is 1 John 17:15 says? I do not ask you to take them out of the world, but to keep them from evil one, where it means to protect or to preserve in the midst of. Douglas Moo uses this verse from the Gospel of John chapter 17 to prove that believers will be protected or preserved in the midst of tribulation. Fourth, all right, so you have first, you have second, and now you have the third. Third, we look at, then we have the fourth one. What is the fourth argument for post-tribulation rapture? Post-tribulation rapture. Parallel phrase, saved from, that is so-so, or iro, that is those two words, or saved from the hour, right? Saved from the hour, is used in a similar sense in Jeremiah 37 in Alexis, in Septuagint, right? The word is used there. He will be saved from it. Where it describes Israel will be preserved in the midst of Jacob's trouble. What is the Jacob trouble? Douglas Moo believes, we do believe, Jacob's trouble is a word for tribulation period. Tribulation period. So, what he says, Israel will be preserved in the midst of Jacob's trouble. So the same phrase is used. The expression Jacob's trouble in Jeremiah 30 verse 7 is generally taken as a reference to tribulation judgment, the trouble of Israel, right? Same judgment is in view in Revelation chapter 3 verse 10. So four arguments for post-tribulation rapture. Rapture will take place at the end of tribulation, right? So this is what post-trib believes. Now, let's look at what is pre-tribulational rapture. What is their argument? Paul Feinberg is the one who champions this idea, the case for pre-tribulational rapture of the church. He advocates following things. First, as mentioned above, keep, the word keep, can mean to protect or preserve, like the post-tribulationists say. Yes, he also says, yes, it is right. It can mean protect or preserve, but also it can mean to safeguard against. What is, remember, if you look at their argument, yes, this is what post-tribulational argument, protect, preserve, not just to safeguard against, right? So post-tribulationists agree, pre-tribulationists agree. The word keep, actually, what does it mean? Right? Both of them agree in that. Second, from, right? The word ek in Greek may mean out from within. Yes, that is like post-tribulationalists argue emergence, right? But it also can mean away from. And we have verses here. So if you look at post-tribulational argument, they also say, okay, second, yet always carries the idea, always carries the sense out from within. That is emergence, right? Post-tribulationists believe that it is only emergence, right? So that is, believers are protected in the tribulation, right? Will be kept within the tribulation safe. That is what post-tribulationists argue. But pre-tribulationists argue that it can mean out from within, but also away from. This is the added idea. Pre-tribulationists believe that. How, from where do they believe? They believe that it is from John 12:27. Maybe let's look at John, Gospel of John 12. Gospel of John 12, verse 27. What is verse 27 says? Can one of you please read?
However, we know from where this man is, but when Christ comes, no man will know from
12:27.
12:20. Oh, sorry.
Now my soul is troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. No, it was for this very reason I came to this hour.
Look at Jesus' phrase. Father, save me from this hour, right? So it also, so that's what it says. The idea is not only out from within, but save away from. Let's look at Acts 15:29. Acts 15:29.
That you abstain from foods offered to idol, from blood, from things strangled, and from sexual immorality. You will do well if you keep yourself away from these things.
Yes. Yes. If you keep yourself free from or away from, and of course Hebrews. So there are verses in the Bible that the word ek, right, out of, can not only mean, yes, out from within, but it also can mean away from, removed out of, right? Removal from a scenario, not face being in the scenario, right? That is the argument. So here, pre-tribulationists argue, no, wait. This also can be this way also. Third, the expression in Gospel of John chapter 17 that post-tribulationists use, verse 15, what he says, I do not ask you to take them out of the world, but to keep them from evil one, is inconclusive, right? Because it is very clear. The Lord could be asking the Father that his followers be protected in the midst of the evil one. Or he could be asking that they be kept away from evil one, right? It can be both ways, right? Look at what is post-tribulation said about that verse. It says it means to protect or preserve in the midst of. Only one idea: protection. why not? It is also can be means not only protected by, but to be kept away from evil one. Why not? Kept away, not only protected in the midst of evil one, why not kept away? It is possible. God can not only protect you in the midst of evil, God can also protect you away from the evil one. It is possible, right? So we are saying it is not conclusive evidence. It is inconclusive. Fourth argument for from pre-tribulationists against the post-tribulationists. Yes, for it is right, Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7 involves Israel, not the church. Yes, the question is not whether national Israel will experience tribulation judgment. Sure, they are going to be protected in the tribulation period, no doubt. We're not talking about Israel's protection, right? That's not what we are talking about. But whether the church will experience such, that's the question. Scripture consistently teaches that national Israel will go through tribulation period. Yes, it is a time of Jacob's trouble. In a sense, tribulation period is particularly it is aimed at Jewish people for their lack of faith and lack of accepting the Messiah. So no doubt we are not saying that Israel will be protected away or will be taken out of tribulation period. We are not saying Israel will go through tribulation period. We are talking about the church. The fifth argument of post-tribulationists we saw that was this. Okay, they had 4 arguments, not 5, right? 4 arguments. But we are making the 5th argument here. That is, and even a closer parallel, right? That is, sozo, right? Being saved out of, protected out of, preserved out of, is found in 5:20 of James, right? 5:20 of James. What do we read? The closer parallel to Revelation 3:20 is in 5:20 of James. This is what we read. Let him know that he who turns a sinner from the error of his way will save his soul from death. Right? Save his soul from death, which is very close to Revelation 3. With the meaning here is kept away from death in the sense of not experience that spiritual death. So maybe much more lexical, closer look of the language supports a pre-tribulation view, not a post-tribulational argument. Now, conclusion. This is what we want to spend some time here. The position most consistent with the evidence in this verse is the pre-tribulation rapture view, not post-tribulation. John is saying that because the believers in Philadelphia had been faithful to Christ, right? That is the context. This is written to believers in Philadelphia. They have been faithful to Christ. This is the word that is there. You have kept the word of my perseverance. He in turn would keep them from the well-known period of testing that would be for the entire world of unbelievers. That's the promise. Because you kept my word of perseverance, I will keep you from the period of test that will come upon the whole world. I will keep you from. Now, assuming that period of testing in view embraces the tribulation judgment described in vivid detail in the chapters to follow, right? Because that is what now chapter 4 onwards, like at least from chapter 6 onwards until chapter 18, we just see this tribulation, the period of testing, how it is going to look like, right? We assume that, and Christ's promise is best understood as pointing to a pre-tribulation rapture of the Philadelphian church, and by extension, a pre-tribulation rapture of the entire body of Christ. That's how we look at it. Promise is particularly given to the Philadelphian church, and it is going to continue, extended to all the body of Christ. Now, there are several supporting arguments which would further substantiate this interpretation. Let's look at the argument. Number one, of course, we are going to look at some more in the coming, our eschatology class, but here. The church is not mentioned in chapter 4 to 18 of Revelation. Remember, Revelation chapter 4 to 18, church is not mentioned, where John develops in great detail the events of the tribulation period, right? Although an argument from silence, the absence of the term in these chapters after its frequent use in the first 3 chapters appears to be a valid argument against church being present on the earth during this period. Just think with me. First 3 chapters of Revelation, just talking about the church all the time. And then from 4 to 18, church is completely silent. When tribulation, about the tribulation period is being explained, no talk about the church. No talk about the church at all. At least something should be said somewhere, what Jesus will do to the church. No, that's not the way Revelation actually explains. Now, those who holding post-tribulation rapture counter by saying that John uses the expression church in chapter 1 to 3 exclusively refer to local congregations, right? The reason the expression is not used in 4 to 18 is that the universal church is in view. That's the reason. And John never uses the expression church to refer to the universal church. So they say, John never used the word church for the universal body of believers. And therefore, you don't see the word church there. But universal church is there in tribulation. In addition, post-tribulation will say, whenever believers are addressed in chapter 4 to 18, the church saints are also understood to be included, because he talks about believers in the tribulation period. Also, whenever the resurrection of believers is referred to in chapter 4 to 20, it is assumed that church saints are included in these references that involve the rapture too, right? That's a rapture. So what they said, of course, you don't see the word church in 4 to 18 because John is talking about the universal church. He never used the word church for universal body of believers. And whenever the word believer is used in the tribulation period, this is a reference to church, right? So this is what post-tribulationist argument. Post-tribulation argument. Now the problem with the post-tribulation response is that a post-tribulation rapture of the church must be assumed the arguments to be valid, right? So if we believe post tribulation, see, the problem with the many people, what is the problem? They believe that one group believe church will not go through tribulation. Other group believe that church will go through tribulation, right? That is the argument. But the funny thing is here, both groups believe in rapture, right? Both groups believe in rapture, that church will be taken up. Pre-tribulation believes church will be taken up before tribulation. Post-tribulationists believe church will be taken up after tribulation, end of tribulation. Of course, you have another group who are known as mid-tribulationists. They believe the church will be taken up in the midst, right, in the middle period of tribulation. So everyone believes in what? Rapture. Everyone believes in rapture. So if you have videos or teachers and preachers who mock rapture, mostly it is because they think that most of people are fools, that they don't understand what these people are teaching. If you happen to believe that, right? If you believe, otherwise you should be an amillennialist. What is the amillennialist? Or you're a post-millennial. Idea is that there is no 1,000 years reign. So finally Christ will come. If you believe in a premillennial view, then you believe in rapture. You believe in rapture. And even post-millennials have the same issue, right? So I'm saying you believe in rapture. So rapture is there for everyone. The question is, when the rapture will take place? That is the question that is we need to look at. Now, so in other words, proponents did not prove the presence of the church in chapters 4 to 18. They are not proving. They simply argue that their interpretation of data in these chapters is consistent if a post-tribulation rapture of the church is assumed, right? You know that? Post-tribulation rapture of the church is assumed. In addition, John uses plural churches in chapter 1 to 3 to refer to all the churches in the designated locations in Asia Minor, and by extension to all of the churches on the earth who read John's letter. Thus, John could have used plural in chapter 4 to 18 as he does in chapter 3, to refer to the churches inclusively, where they to experience judgment describes, but that is not, we see. So my point here is that why he addressed in chapter 3 to churches. So it is not only one congregation. This letter is to be read all the churches, because these judgments are to be taken very seriously by all the churches. That's what John wants. John wants two churches. Yeah, that in extension, even today, because that same verse is coming to you in your hand, you need to take. Now, so I am saying, if that was the way that John said in first 3 chapters, but he is not using this word churches at all in chapter 4 to 18. When the judgment happened, if the churches are going to experience the judgment, John could have explained it. He did not. Now, second thing to be noted, John mentions the Lamb's bride in 19:7 in connection with the Lord's return to the earth at the end of the tribulation. We know this, right? We know this one, the bride. Both sides of the debate agree that the Lamb's bride, right? Lamb's bride is a reference to universal church. Okay. Whether you are a post-trib, you are a pre-trib, bride means what? Everyone agrees, universal church. As well, John uses this inclusive expression, churches. Look at again in 22:16. Or not only in the first 3 chapters, but by the end, he uses again the word churches. Somehow he misses in 4 to 18. Right? So then, John refers to the churches inclusively in chapter 1 to 3, and to the Lamb's bride or the universal church in 19:7, in connection with the Lord's return to the earth, and to these churches inclusively in 22:16 at the end of his letter. The question remains, why John does not use the expression churches in chapters 4 to 18. Why not? Why did he use in the beginning and in the end, but not in the middle? If these churches are on the earth during the tribulation period. So to me, that is a valid and it is a great argument that what is being said in chapter 3 verse 10, keep you away from the testing period for the whole world. John deliberately did not use the word churches in these 4 to 18 to tell that church is not the one that is going to experience this tribulation period. Next paragraph. Taken at face value, John 14 verse 1 to 3 can only be understood if the church experienced that the rapture before the tribulation period. All right, turn your Bibles to John chapter 14. John chapter 14. This is and I believe that these 3 verses refers to rapture. John 14, 1 to 3. One of you please read. John 14, 1 to 3. Anyone? All right, if you have not taken, I'm going to read. Do not let your heart be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many dwelling places. If it were not so, I would have told you. For I go to prepare a place for you. Look at that one, right? In my Father's house, many dwelling places. Then I go to prepare a place for you. If I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself. Receive you unto myself. That where I am, there you may be also. You may be also. So, taken at face value, John 14, 1 to 3 can only be understood if the church experiences the rapture before the tribulation period. In what sense do believers go to Father's house at Christ's return if the rapture is post-tribulation? What sense? According to the post-tribulation rapture of the church, those who experience the rapture return immediately to the earth with Christ, right? Now, let me, I just wanted to, 1 second here. I wanted to, wow. All right, I wanted to show you something. What is the uh, what is the difference between a pre-tribulational rapture of the church? What is the difference between a pre-tribulational rapture of the church? I will tell you. All right, don't worry about the line, right? This is the line, and we say 7 year of tribulation period, right? Tribulation period. These are 7 years of tribulation period. According to pre-tribulationalist, they believe the church will be taken up, right? In the in Jesus will come back from heaven, right? Jesus Christ, he will come back. According to First Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16 and 17. This is what we read. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, right? It says, he will descend from heaven. The Lord himself, Jesus Christ, will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel and the trumpet of God, right? Yeah, with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Verse 17. Then it says, then we who are alive and remain will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet. Right? So we have a meeting point here. And people call it as a mid-air, right? Mid-air or a cloud. Right, okay. It's like, yes, cloud. Or sometimes people say mid-air, right? Rapture in a mid-air, whatever maybe it is. That is what is here. All right. So we are taken up in heaven. And so what pre-tribulationists do, what they say, they join these two verses together. First Thessalonians, we read that they are taken up into midday, and then it says, so meet the Lord in the air. So shall always be with the Lord. That is what it says. But they use that with Gospel of John chapter 14. Gospel of John chapter 14, where we just read now. It says, yes, I'm going to prepare. I have a dwelling place in my Father's house. I would have, if not, I would have not told you, or I go to prepare a place for you. If I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you will be also. So what is pre-tribulationists would say? There is their argument. Their argument is this. Jesus will come back from heaven, right? Take his saints and go back to heaven, right? Father's house. Right. Father's house. That is what pre-tribulationists would say. So you are there in Father's house for 7 years, right? 7 years in Father's house. So don't think that pre-tribulationists are saying believers will be staying in midair. That's not the argument. They're in Father's house. They will be with Jesus in his house, Father's house. Now, what is post-tribulational rapture says? They say rapture will take place at the end of the tribulation period, right? Jesus will come from heaven, they say, right? Now, here is the headache here for the post-tribulationists. They say rapture will take place here. And then Jesus come, right? So here is the meeting place. So together with the Jesus Christ, everyone will come back to the earth. Everyone will come back to the earth. You look at that one. That is what post-tribulationist rapture. Yes. So if it is, okay, let me say, if it is here, they are taken up to heaven. That's the reason this is, they are raptured to be gone to heaven. But here they are raptured to come back to heaven, to come back to the earth, right? So this is the argument. Both believe in rapture. Whether you are a pre-tribulationist or a post-tribulationist, you believe in rapture. The question is why the rapture takes place and when the rapture takes place is the question, right? That's the question. So there's some people don't think, because they usually the understanding of the people is that, okay, post-tribulation believe that church will go through tribulation period and then enter into the millennial kingdom. Millennial kingdom, right? Right, the 1,000 years reign. That is not what post-tribulationists argues, actually. They believe in a rapture. Well, it is the post-tribulation that mock here. Oh, remember that movie? That movie about, about two people driving. I know that is a wrong interpretation. I understand. Two people will be driving, maybe a driver drives the car, he's raptured. So
Left behind.
yeah, and it goes and hits somewhere, right? So that movie, I know that, maybe they have wrongly interpreted, I understand, but there is a reality, right? There is a reality that is not really, that is a movie that usually people quote to mock pre-tribulation rapture. Understand that post-tribulationists believe in rapture, right? So it is not a question, only pre-tribulationists believe in the rapture. Both of them do believe. Now the question should be, what is the purpose of the rapture and when it will take place? So that is my point here, that I wanted to stress here. All right. Let's go back again to the notes. So the proponents of the post-tribulation rapture argues that, yes, 14, 1 to 3, a promise of Lord's presence. All right. Okay. Now, here is the thing. Again, look at again. I said here, take it at face value. 14, 1 to 3 can only be understood if the church experienced the rapture before the tribulation period, right? Now, in what sense do believers go to the Father's house at Christ's return? That is my question. If post-tribulation argument is right, they are not going to Father's house. They are going to the mid-air and come back to the earth. They're not going to Father's house. So according to the post-tribulation rapture of the church, those who experience rapture return immediately to the earth with Christ without going to heaven. Without going to heaven. They are not going to heaven. But so, how do they explain this Gospel of John chapter 14? I have prepared a place, I will come and take you into my Father's house. How are they going to explain? I will tell you how do they explain. Proponents of post-tribulation rapture argues that John 14, 1-3 is a promise of Lord's presence. Not a promise that disciples would be taken to heaven when the Lord's return. Wow, that is difficult to swallow. In the other words, Lord's promise is that when he returns, the readers will be with him from that point forward. There is no express statement about his taking them to heaven. That is what he moves us. Right? So, so their argument is that promise of Lord, it is not a promise that disciples will be taken to heaven. Rather, they say when the Lord's promise is that when he returns, the readers will be with him from that point forward. This is what post-tribulationists argue. Jesus will be with them. So, I will take you into Father's house means that Jesus is going to be with the believers from that time onwards. This is what their argument. Then I say here, the post-tribulation interpretation of John 14, 1-3 is problematic. Verse 2, the Lord tells his disciples that he's going to the Father's house to prepare a place for them. Look at that one. Prepare a place for them. He then repeats his statement in 14:3, saying, if he goes to prepare a place for them, he will come again to receive them to himself. And look at the next one. So that where he is, they may also be there. That's very clear. It's a place. There is a general agreement that Father's house refers to heaven, and the place the Lord prepares for the disciples are referred to dwelling places. Dwelling places. So it is a place, not simply a presence. Father's house is a place, not a presence. So that is the problem with they are unable to apply John 14 in a post-tribulational rapture view. Sequence seems clear. Jesus will shortly go to Father's house. Once there, he will prepare a dwelling place for the disciples. Then he will return to receive his disciples. That they may be where he is also. So taken at face value, Jesus appears to be saying that he is coming back to take his disciples. To take his disciples to the place he has prepared for them in the Father's house. That is in heaven. So taking them into heaven is a huge thing for pre-tribulational rapture, and which is very strong argument. That's where post-tribulationism really fails. And so they want to beat around the bush and say this is the presence, not a place. And I say here, this interpretation fits well with the pre-tribulation rapture of the church, not with the post-tribulation rapture. As mentioned above, the position rapture, the disciples are not taken to heaven. right? It's a post-tribulation rapture. The disciples are not taken to heaven at all. Rather, they meet the Lord in the air and then immediately return with him to the earth. Not going to Father's place now, in the post-tribulationalist argument. So, according to Revelation 20, verse 10, now here is another clue. There is a great rebellion against God at the end of the millennial kingdom, right? The rebellion presupposes a large number of unbelievers on earth at that time. All right. One second. Yes. If you look at, let's look at Revelation 20, verse 7 to 10. What of you please read? Revelation 20, verse 1 to 10. All right, I have. Okay. Let's look at Revelation chapter here, 20. Revelation chapter 20.
When the 1,000 years are over, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, and gather them for battle. In number, they are like the sand on the seashore. They marched across the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of God's people, the city he loves. But fire came down from heaven and devoured them.
Yeah, so that's the scene. End of the 1,000 years reign. Right? There will be a great rebellion against God. This rebellion presupposes. Now, where is this rebellion? In the kingdom that Jesus established. 1,000 years reign. At the end of the kingdom, right? It clearly says, when the 1,000 years are completed, Satan will be released from his prison. So it is the end of the 1,000 years. And we know there are a large number of unbelievers on the earth at that time. Not one or two, a large number. If now a question is asked, if the only believers are allowed to enter the kingdom, we know that only believers are allowed to enter the kingdom, right? John 3:5. Unless you are born again, you cannot enter into the kingdom. Jesus speaks to Nicodemus. Unless you are born again, you cannot enter. So if only believers are allowed to enter the kingdom, where do these unbelievers come from? The one who populate the kingdom from the rebellion at the end, right? How this is going to happen? If the rapture of the church occurs at the beginning of the tribulation, now, then that allows time for unbelievers to be saved during the tribulation. You see? Right? So, rapture of the church occurs in the tribulation period. That allows time for unbelievers to be saved during the tribulation period and survive the tribulation judgment and enter into the kingdom with a natural bodies. These will procreate and give birth to children who are sinners in need of salvation. It is from these children and their offspring that the rebellion of unbelievers at the end of the kingdom will take place. Now, here is the point I wanted to highlight, all right? Listen carefully. If the rapture occurs at the end of the tribulation, right? End of the tribulation. Now, according to post-tribulationist argument, they believe that it takes place at end. Then all believers whether they are alive or dead, will be having what kind of body? Glorified body, right? Because they believe that there is the one resurrection. When Jesus comes, all those who are dead in Christ will be resurrected. Those who remain believers will be changed. That means all believers will have what kind of body? Only one kind of body, that is glorified body. As such, there would be no believers left to enter into the kingdom in their natural bodies to reproduce and populate the kingdom with unregenerate children in need of salvation. That is another dilemma for post-tribulationists. In other words, since only believers are allowed to enter into the millennial kingdom, according to a post-tribulation rapture, all believers are raptured and glorified just prior to the kingdom. And then where do these unbelievers come from who rebel against God at the end? No way to explain. Friend, a post-tribulationist rapture is unable to explain the question, how can we have at the end of 1,000 years unbelievers? That is the question.